Hello and welcome to this video on why a bonsai you buy costs so much more than you think it should. Recently, we've encountered several incidents of people arguing over the price of a bonsai. They'll claim that it's overpriced and exorbitant for what it is, that they could make something very similar for far less, and that they're unwilling to pay what is being asked. This does raise the question of just why bonsai are priced the way they are. Bonsai are, at a fundamental level, just small, stylized trees and shrubs in a decorative pot. You can buy similar plants in a decorative pot, or even a non-decorative pot for very little. So what is it about bonsai that makes a small and early specimen so much more expensive than the comparable nursery stock? For this, we need to look at what makes a more developed bonsai both more expensive and in some ways that much more valuable. Your average nursery sapling or punnet can range from a few dollars to hundreds of dollars. It very much depends on the species. For this reason, we can take the nursery stock as a base range of prices. In theory, anything increasing in price from this in a bonsai must be because of changes that increase its value. For us, a small oak will cost about $10, a juniper about $20, pines are about $50, and a maple is between $75 and $140. This gives some idea of the price range seen with nursery stock. That is your everyday tree that you can buy from just about anywhere. Let's now look at what a bonsai version of these might cost based on a very superficial average price at the moment. A maple can cost as little as $350, a juniper costs $50, a pine costs $900, and an oak is around $120. These trees were all in plastic growing pots, not a decorative bonsai pot, which allows for a comparison with nursery trees that are not bonsai. To put this in the context of ratios, an oak is 12 times more expensive, a juniper 2.5 times, a pine 18 times more expensive, and a maple between 2 and 4-fold increase in value. While some of these are more outrageous than others, that is not the whole story. The value of a bonsai is derived from several factors, which are largely unrelated to the value of a tree in a nursery. Nursery stock is valued for its height and readiness to be planted in the ground and achieve the desired effect as quickly as possible. For example, a screening hedge or a decorative tree must be large and ready to provide that effect, either being a screen and thereby providing privacy or blocking view, or providing contrast and color. In other cases, it can be readiness to bear fruit. These factors are not desirable in a bonsai in all cases. Further, a good plant in a nursery is fully grown, with as much development as possible. Exactly where or how this development has occurred is not especially important, so long as the plant has grown. This often leads to a very long, tall and narrow tree, a whip. These are likely to grow very quickly horizontally and continue to gain height. The trunk will rarely be very thick in these cases. These sorts of trees are ideal for gardens and landscaping, where they'll grow quickly and develop into something that has the impact desired. The bonsai we looked at demonstrate the desirable traits of a bonsai. Rarely did we see a long, tall plant with very little lateral growth. Instead, they were often short, stocky, and had a substantial horizontal growth. These are in line with the formal styles of a bonsai. This can be achieved by either cutting down existing nursery stock, growing a bonsai from seed, or digging it in the wild. In all cases, you need to allow time for this to happen, and this is the first expense you need to allow for. Bonsai take time to achieve their shape. No matter how you source the bonsai, the desired attributes are very different. We've previously described some of the key features that take so much time, these being nabari, the roots, taper, branch structure, and ramification. These are features that have little importance in a nursery tree. These plants are expected to have years to grow into their shape, while bonsai will struggle in the same time to get remotely similar results. This is why a bonsai must have the desired characteristics that you want when it's for sale, or be likely to develop these over the near future. Without this, the price of the tree drops significantly as it has undesirable attributes. You aren't buying a bonsai tree for its attributes as a species like you would the screening hedge. Rather, you're buying it for that individual tree's attributes. Curves and movement, width of the trunk. All of these things are important, and all of them have needed time to grow into that way. A wide nabari and trunk may take years to develop, whereas a tall, thin whip does not require this same time. This leads to the next element that will increase the value of a bonsai, if it has been styled. Styling a bonsai may take a week if it's already very well developed. You then wait a time for either new growth to kick in, or for confirmation that things are going well. This is true if the tree is already well grown and you're simply pruning it back to the right shape and encouraging growth. This is very fundamental and basic material, and good to get started with if you're new into the hobby. It doesn't have much training done to it, but there's a general shape and guide to work from. Conversely, you can get very advanced stock that have nearly completely been styled with only maintenance needed. At the other extreme end is underdeveloped material. This is material you may not need to just prune, but also wire and spend years working on to form into a bonsai in any of the formal styles. That is hours of work over years on a smallish tree. It could be days every year on a much larger specimen. This does not include things like repotting, fertilizing, and so on. You can see how these 3 points of reference tell you something about the price that would be included. The most fundamental and almost raw material needs the most work, and so therefore is of the least value, assuming that it's not an especially desirable piece. Then you have the most developed and most heavily worked on specimens that are nearly complete. All of this time, whether it's the minimum or maximum of effort, must have a return which compounds over years in some cases. All of the expenses of growing the tree must be accounted for. That could be soil and work time, or the time and expense of digging a yamadori, the number of trees that you may collect or die in the form of yamadori. All of these things need to come out in the price reflected in the tree. The value can further be, and often is, generally increased further through planting the bonsai in a pot, which makes it ready to display. Pots range in price from a few dollars to hundreds and thousands of dollars for the most prestigious or well-known pots from specific makers. The value of these pots will be dependent on the knowledge of the purchaser and seller. This may see the pot with very different value based on what it is. Just like the way Pawn Stars regularly gives people a very bad deal for a very valuable item, an unknowledgeable seller or buyer may in turn be ripped off. Further, it can be difficult to find the right pot for the right tree. This often leads to the need, and in some cases unavoidable reality, of hoarding a stockpile of pots that have yet to find trees, or trees that have yet to find a pot. Storing and maintenance of pots is another expense on top of the purchase price, the cost of which can in some cases be exorbitant for custom pots. This also adds further to the value of the tree in many cases. Supply is another big factor. At least locally, maples and junipers are popular and very widely available in large numbers. This means the supply is high, and this drives down prices. It is why we see a relatively low value increase for most maples and junipers. There are of course some outliers. Where you have a small market, you can buy trees at a very good price. This is because there's a lot of supply from various people and relatively little demand. By comparison, when you are in a large market where there are many buyers but fewer suppliers, you must pay more. This scenario often exists in clubs, community groups, and even some commercial businesses, depending on where they are. For us, conversely, established oaks and pines are rare where we are. This drives the price up, as there is a lot of interest and people are willing to pay more. This is just like current graphics card and overall chip shortage effects on prices across many different areas of life. Finally, the value of a bonsai is very subjective. It is a kind of art and living work. For this reason, some people may be selling an informal upright and view it as such. Another person may view it as an undesirable or ineffective informal upright, but they do believe it could be air layered to create a cascade. For this reason, they may not value it the same way. They may see it as something that can be worked on and improved for a desirable outcome, while the person selling it believes it is good the way it is. What one person sees as possibilities for a bonsai can vary drastically from another. A seemingly limited tree with little growth and development, but a great trunk, might have more value to someone than a tree with little trunk growth, but great branch structure. Ultimately, most bonsai, unless made on an industrial scale, and generally only in nurseries that are able to do so, do not represent a good return for the person who has styled and grown the bonsai. The cost is ultimately more than you might think it is worth, but at the same time, it is not able to be sold at a price that is commensurate with the value of the work that has gone into the bonsai. Materials like wire, soil, pots, and so on, the time taken to prune and wire trees, the purchasing of the trees or the propagation. The pots themselves in some cases may be of especially valuable material or make. All of these add to the price to the grower or bonsai enthusiast. This time and work is why we see bonsai cost so much more than a comparative nursery plant. Even with that in mind, oftentimes what the tree is being sold at is not the value of what has gone into training and developing that bonsai. It's often far less than what the work would be paid for if it was done by someone who was actually being paid for that work. This is why, when you say that a bonsai is not worth the value it's being sold for, it's worth considering in more detail and evaluating just how established the tree is, how much work has gone into it, how old the tree is, and a number of other factors we've described so far to see if perhaps the tree actually has a lot more value than is obvious on the surface. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions that you have below.